Where'd you steal this car from?
I didn't steal anything. It's mine.
Yeah, right. Turn around. You're under arrest.
Officer, your body camera is recording, and what you just did will cost you 8 years in federal prison.
Officer Torres didn't know the man he just arrested was Judge Marcus Williams, the federal judge who'd sent 14 corrupt cops to prison. Torres just became number 15. Torres had no idea what he'd just done, but in 8 minutes, his entire life would collapse. Vincent Torres, 42 years old, 16 years with Tampa PD, 23 complaints filed against him, every single one the same story. Black driver, expensive car. Torres convinced they didn't belong. In his mind, he was doing his job, keeping neighborhoods safe, stopping criminals before they could act. He'd gotten away with it for 16 years. Tonight was different. The man he just arrested wasn't a thief. Marcus Williams, 47, coming home after a long day. Jeans, gray t-shirt, just wanted gas. No suit, no badge visible. No indication he'd spent the last 12 years prosecuting officers exactly like Torres. Officers who saw skin color and made assumptions. Officers who built careers on bias and got away with it until they met him. Torres's body cam was recording. 12 people watching. Every word captured. Every illegal move documented. 8 minutes. That's all it took to destroy 16 years. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Subscribe, because what happens next will redefine what accountability looks like. 11:14 p.m. Pump 4, Sunoco Station, Highway 41, Florida. Torres walked toward the Mercedes with the confidence of someone who'd done this before, 23 times before. His hand rested near his weapon, not on it, just near it. Marcus noticed. He straightened slightly, kept his hands visible. "Whose car is this?" "Mine." Torres circled the vehicle slowly, checking the rims, peering through the windows, looking for something, anything that would justify what he'd already decided. "Registration." Marcus reached into the glove box, pulled out the documents, handed them over without a word. Torres glanced at them for maybe 2 seconds, then tossed them back through the window onto the passenger seat. "These can be faked." "They're not. You don't look like you belong in a car like this." There it was, on camera, time-stamped, undeniable. Marcus kept his voice level. "Officer, you're detaining me without probable cause. That's a Fourth Amendment violation." Torres had heard this before, from people who thought knowing their rights would save them. It never did, not when he had the badge and they didn't. Probable cause is, I know stolen cars when I see them. A woman at Pump 6 pulled out her phone, started recording. A man near the convenience store stopped mid-step, watching. Inside, the teenage employee pressed his face against the glass. A truck driver in the far corner angled his phone toward them. Torres saw the phones. He didn't care. He'd been recorded before. Nothing ever came of it. "Your body camera is recording this," Marcus said quietly. "So what?" Marcus smiled, just slightly, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the kind that says you have no idea what you just did. Torres keyed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I need backup at the Sunoco on Highway 41. Suspicious vehicle, possible stolen property, drivers being uncooperative." "There's no theft happening here," Marcus said. "You're creating a crime that doesn't exist." "We'll see about that." A siren wailed in the distance, getting closer. Torres's backup was 3 minutes out. Marcus glanced at his watch. 11:17 p.m. 3 minutes since Torres had first approached. 5 minutes left until everything changed. He didn't move, didn't argue, just stood there with the patience of someone who'd spent 12 years presiding over cases exactly like this one. Cases where officers made assumptions, where bias became procedure, where careers ended because someone thought they were above the law. The siren grew louder. Red and blue lights flashed across the gas station. A second patrol car swung into the lot, too fast, tires crunching over gravel. Officer Daniels stepped out, 29 years old, 3 years on the force, eager to back up a senior officer without asking questions. Torres nodded toward Marcus. "This the guy?" Daniels walked over, positioned himself on Marcus's other side. 2 officers, 1 man, 12 witnesses, 1 body camera recording every word. Marcus didn't speak, didn't move, just waited. Because he knew something Torres didn't. In 5 minutes, this was going to be the worst decision of Torres's life. 11:20 p.m. Torres didn't explain, he just nodded toward Marcus. Possible stolen vehicle, driver's uncooperative, won't provide valid ID. Daniels glanced at Marcus, then back at Torres. Senior officer, 16 years on the force. If Torres said it was suspicious, it was suspicious. Got it. That's all it took. No questions, no verification, just blind loyalty. Torres stepped closer. "Turn around, hands behind your back." Marcus didn't resist. He turned slowly, placing his hands behind him. The handcuffs clicked shut. Cold metal. Tight. Too tight. He spoke clearly, loud enough for every witness to hear. "My name is Marcus Williams. I'm a federal judge for the Northern District of Florida. This is an unlawful detention without probable cause. I have committed no crime. Everything you're doing is being recorded." Torres pulled the cuffs tighter. "Save it." The woman at pump 6 shouted. "He didn't do anything. He was just getting gas." A man near the store stepped forward. "I saw the whole thing. He showed you his registration. You threw it back at him." Inside the convenience store, the teenage employee was on the phone, not with friends, with 911.
"Yeah, I need to report police misconduct. They're arresting someone who didn't do anything wrong. Sunoco on Highway 41. There's like 15 people here watching." The kid in the truck had been live streaming for 6 minutes. The view count in the corner of his screen climbed fast. 12,000, 28,000, 53,000 people watching live. Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket. He couldn't reach it, couldn't answer, but he saw the screen light up through his jeans. "Jason, Dad, you okay? I see you on Facebook. People saying you got arrested?" His 16-year-old son, watching his father in handcuffs, just like Marcus had watched his own father 20 years ago. Different state, different officer, same assumptions, same humiliation. The phone buzzed again. "Dad, please answer." Marcus closed his eyes. Couldn't answer, couldn't explain, not yet. Torres scanned the crowd. More people had gathered. 18 now, maybe 20, all of them with phones out, all of them recording. One voice cut through the murmurs. "Wait, that's Judge Williams. That's the federal judge who sent those cops to prison last year." Torres's face changed, just for a second. A flicker, doubt, confusion, then it hardened again. "I don't care who he says he is. He's under arrest." But his voice didn't carry the same confidence anymore. Daniels shifted his weight. "Torres, maybe we're taking him in." Torres grabbed Marcus's arm and walked him toward the patrol car. The crowd followed, phones raised, recording every step. The woman from Pump 6 called out, "You're arresting a judge? Are you insane?" Torres didn't answer. He just opened the back door of his cruiser and guided Marcus inside, slammed the door shut. Marcus sat in the back seat. Plastic seats, chemical smell, handcuffs digging into his wrists. Torres got in the driver's seat, sat there for a moment, didn't start the engine, just stared at the steering wheel. The silence was heavy. Marcus spoke quietly from the back. "You have 4 minutes left." Torres's hands tightened on the wheel. 11:24 p.m. Captain Lisa Rodriguez's phone lit up while she was making dinner. Her daughter's name flashed on the screen. "Mom, you need to see this, now." The video link came through. Rodriguez opened it, saw Torres, saw the handcuffs, saw the crowd, heard Marcus's voice. "I'm a federal judge. This is unlawful detention." She watched for 30 seconds. Her face went pale. She was in her car 90 seconds later.
The gas station was chaos when she arrived. 20+ people, phones everywhere. Torres standing by his cruiser, arms crossed, trying to look confident. Daniels beside him, shifting nervously. Rodriguez stepped out. No introduction, no pleasantries. Explanation, now. Torres straightened. Captain, we have a suspicious vehicle situation. Driver wasn't cooperating. Did you run the plates? Silence. Officer Torres, did you run the registration? No, ma'am, but open the door. Torres hesitated. Rodriguez's voice dropped to something cold. Now. The back door opened. Marcus stepped out slowly, hands still cuffed behind his back. He didn't say anything, just looked at Rodriguez with the calm of someone who'd been here before. Rodriguez unlocked the cuffs herself. The metal clicked open. Marcus rubbed his wrists, then reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out his credentials, opened them, held them up. Rodriguez took them, read them. Her jaw tightened. She looked at Torres. You arrested a federal judge. Torres's face went white. Captain, I didn't know. You didn't ask, you didn't verify, you didn't run plates, you just saw a black man in an expensive car and decided he was a criminal. I was following procedure. Badge and weapon, right now. Torres's hands shook as he unclipped his badge, handed it over, then his weapon. Rodriguez took them without a word. Daniel stepped forward, his voice cracking. Captain, I was just backing him up. You participated in an illegal arrest. We'll deal with you next. Marcus finally spoke. His voice wasn't loud, wasn't angry, just tired. 23 people filed complaints against Officer Torres. 23, and nothing happened to him, because those 23 people didn't have badges, didn't have witnesses, couldn't fight back. He paused. That ends today. Torres opened his mouth. I was just trying to... Rodriguez cut him off. Save it for federal court. The crowd erupted. Applause, cheers. Someone yelled, Justice! The kid in the truck checked his live stream count. 3.2 million views. Marcus walked to his Mercedes, started the engine, drove away without looking back. Torres stood in the middle of the gas station. No badge, no weapon, no career. Just the body cam footage, the witnesses, and the 8 years waiting for him. The FBI opened an investigation 72 hours after the video went viral. What they found was a pattern so clear it couldn't be ignored. 23 complaints over 16 years. 19 involved black drivers in luxury vehicles, and in 7 of those cases, Torres had falsified his reports, inventing probable cause that didn't exist, claiming drivers were uncooperative when body cam footage showed full compliance. 7 falsified reports meant 7 illegal arrests, and federal prosecutors don't ignore patterns like that. The trial happened 8 months later. Judge Patricia Moreno presided. The courtroom was packed. News cameras lined the hallway outside. Civil rights organizations sent observers. Marcus sat in the 3rd row, watching. The prosecution played the body cam footage, every second, every word. Where'd you steal this car from? You don't look like you belong in a car like this. Yeah, sure it is. Turn around. The jury watched in silence. A woman in the back row wiped her eyes. A man in the front crossed his arms, jaw tight. Torres took the stand. His attorney tried to paint him as a dedicated officer, making tough calls under pressure. The federal prosecutor, Claudia Voss, stood for cross-examination. Officer Torres, is racial profiling part of your job description? No. Then what was your probable cause to arrest Judge Williams? Silence. Officer Torres, what specific, articulable facts justified that arrest? Torres shifted in his seat. He was uncooperative. The body cam shows him complying with every request. He produced registration, he answered your questions. What part of that is uncooperative? No answer. What was your probable cause? I thought the car didn't match. Didn't match what? Silence. Didn't match the color of his skin? Torres's attorney objected. Judge Moreno overruled it. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing came 2 weeks later. Torres's wife took the stand, crying. He was just trying to keep people safe. He's a good man. He made a mistake, please. Judge Moreno asked if Marcus wanted to address the court. Marcus stood. He didn't look at Torres. He looked at the cameras, at the people in the gallery who'd lived through the same thing and never got justice. 23 complaints, 23 people, over 16 years. That's not a mistake. That's a choice the system allowed because the people he targeted couldn't fight back. He paused. Safety built on racism isn't safety. It's oppression.
Judge Moreno sentenced Torres to 8 years in federal prison. Torres's face crumbled. His wife sobbed. Marcus didn't smile, didn't celebrate, just watched as Torres was led away in handcuffs. The same type of handcuffs Torres had used on him 8 months earlier. Officer Daniels was fired but avoided prison. He'd cooperated with investigators, admitted he knew the arrest was wrong, but was too afraid to challenge a senior officer. The city of Tampa settled for $14 million. Torres lost his pension, his law enforcement certification, his freedom. The department implemented new training protocols, independent oversight, real consequences for officers with complaint patterns. The gas station on Highway 41 became something of a landmark. Someone spray-painted "Where Justice Won" on the side wall. The owner left it. Torres is serving his sentence at Coleman Federal Correctional Institution in Florida. Every morning he wakes up in a cell. Every night he goes to sleep knowing that 8 years of his life are gone because he saw a black man in an expensive car and couldn't imagine he belonged there. Marcus Williams still drives that Mercedes, still stops at gas stations late at night, and every time he fills up, he remembers the night everything changed. Marcus Williams went back to work the Monday after sentencing. Same courthouse, same chambers, same robe. But something had changed. Colleagues he'd barely spoken to stopped him in the hallways. Court staff thanked him quietly. A bailiff, a black man in his 50s, pulled him aside. "You did what my father couldn't. Thank you." Marcus didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired. Tired of proving he belonged. Tired of fighting battles that should have been won decades ago. But he kept showing up, because that's what justice required. The gas station on Highway 41 is still there. The graffiti "Where Justice Won" is still on the wall. People drive by just to see it. Torres has 6 years left at Coleman Federal Correctional Institution. Every morning he wakes up in a cell, living with the consequences of 16 years of unchecked bias. Daniels left law enforcement. Last anyone heard, he was working mall security. 1 video, 12 witnesses, 3 million views. That's all it took to end a career built on racial profiling. Know your rights. Record everything, because accountability isn't optional, it's necessary. If this story opened your eyes, share it. If you believe justice matters, hit subscribe. And if you've ever been profiled, harassed, or told you don't belong, comment below. Your story matters too, because the system won't change until we force it to.